Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Hamas unleashed this terror. That's what President Biden reminded everyone at a Holocaust remembrance ceremony yesterday.
Well, at the same time, the president's administration is withholding weapons that would help the Jewish state defeat Hamas. CBN's Chris Mitchell reports on the increasing tensions between the United States and Israel.
In the face of U.S. pressure, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu explained why the War Cabinet approved its operation into Rafah.
Seizing the passage in Rafah today is a very important step. An important step on the way to destroying the remaining military capabilities of Hamas, including the elimination of the 4 terrorist battalions in Rafah, and an important step to damage the governmental capabilities of Hamas, because, as of this morning, we denied Hamas a passage that was essential for establishing its reign of terror in the Strip.
The White House, which has strongly opposed an invasion of Rafah, says it's monitoring the operation.
What we've been told by our Israeli counterparts is that this operation last night was limited and designed to cut off Hamas's ability to smuggle weapons and funds into Gaza. Now, our views on Rafah have remained the same.
On Tuesday, at the Capitol Hill ceremony to remember survivors of the Holocaust, President Joe Biden condemned the recent rise of anti-Semitism and the Hamas massacre on October 7th.
Now, here we are, not 75 years later, but just 7.5 months later, and people are already forgetting. They're already forgetting that Hamas unleashed this terror. It was Hamas that brutalized Israelis. It was Hamas who took and continues to hold hostages. I have not forgotten, nor have you, and we will not forget.
Also on Tuesday, the Biden administration confirmed it's withholding a large shipment of 2,500-pound bombs, fearing it would be used against Rafah. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham blasted that decision on Fox News.
This is the worst possible signal to send to all the bad guys that America would be withholding weapons and ammunition to the Jewish state who's under siege on multiple fronts. That is just inciting more violence.
Israeli journalist Gadi Taub tells CBN News it comes while Israel is fighting for its life.
They are now holding us by the throat because they are withholding ammunition from the IDF. So Israel needs to fight this war. If it is to survive, it will need to fight more wars because it would need to break the noose that Iran has been constructing around us. And the United States is protecting that noose.
The U.S. still believes a ceasefire can be worked out between Israel and Hamas. Today, CIA Chief Bill Burns is expected to meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
This is the time for everyone who loves freedom, for everyone who loves liberty, everyone who believes in freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly. It's time for all of us to stand up and say this kind of terror cannot last. It cannot be in the world today. What Hamas has vowed to do is another genocide. They have vowed to wipe out the state of Israel. It's in their founding document. They did it. They tried to do it on October 7th. They failed at it, but then they vowed we will do this again and again and again and again until Israel doesn't exist anymore. Let us please take them seriously at this and say Israel is a democracy. In Israel, there's freedom of religion. They're not an apartheid state. They're not bent on genocide. What they want is peace with their neighbors. What is happening is the truth has been turned upside down, and somehow Hamas is the victim. You've got to be kidding me. So in that, are we in a battle of ideas? And the answer is yes. In that battle of ideas, can we please stay firm and not send these mixed messages? Hamas is obviously skilled in public relations, obviously skilled in fomenting things on the internet. They believe if they repeat apartheid state, and they repeat genocide, they repeat these things again and again and again, somehow it will convince people that that's actually true, when it's absolutely the opposite is true. They're the ones bent on genocide. They're the ones bent on not an apartheid state, but a complete elimination of the Jewish people in the land of Israel. That's what they're bent on doing. Let us please stand strong. Don't send these mixed messages that if you just wait long enough in your tunnel, America is going to come to your rescue. If you foment even more disturbances on our college campuses, we're going to stand down. We're not going to stand with Israel. Let us resolve firmly. We stand with Israel. We stand for liberty. We stand for democracy. We stand for freedom of religion. Hamas doesn't stand for any of those things. They got elected, yes, but after they got elected, they canceled all future elections. If you want to say they're an occupied territory, your facts are wrong. Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2006. They are not an occupied territory. Israel withdrew from the West Bank all the way back in 1994. So there's signs now as you try to go to Bethlehem or you try to go to Ramallah or Hebron, there's signs up that if you cross this line and you're an Israeli citizen, Israel cannot guarantee your safety because they don't let their forces cross that line. Let's realize who's really at fault here, who really started it all, and please let us stay firm in our commitment to Israel. In other news, Congress is running out of time to shore up Social Security and Medicare. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. With recent reports showing the programs could be out of money in a little over 10 years, one economic expert told CBN News there just aren't enough workers to fund the growing number of retirees, and Congress can't agree on a solution. As George Thomas tells us, the clock is ticking.
America's trust funds are in dire straits.
Our two biggest government programs, Social Security and Medicare, the thing that matters to seniors the most, are both headed towards insolvency.
The government projects that retirees, including the elderly and disabled who rely on Social Security, could see their payments cut by 21% by November 2035. Medicare is expected to be insolvent by 2036.
Every penny you and I have put in for however many years we've worked, it's already all gone. Everything that we're talking about in terms of benefits for people even next month and on in the future is predicated on taxing younger workers today.
The problem is there aren't enough younger workers in the workforce paying into the trust fund with their taxes to offset the growing number of aging baby boomers set to start collecting.
And one of the wonderful benefits we have is people now are living much, much longer. But that's complemented, that good thing is complemented by the fact that we also are having far fewer children. And so there are fewer people coming into the program. Even with immigration, that's still the case where there are fewer workers today than there were, when the program was initialized.
Democrats have proposed higher taxes on the wealthy to keep Social Security funded. But analysts say that's not enough, and Republicans balk at new taxes, instead want to change the benefit formula and raise the retirement age for younger workers. With the clock ticking and cuts set to take effect in 9 years, both sides right now don't seem eager to tackle the problem.
We know the trust funds don't have enough money to pay the benefits that have been promised. And that means when they run out in less than a decade for Social Security, if you are newly retired in Social Security, I'm talking about when you're 71 years old, there are going to be across-the-board benefit cuts of above 20%. That's terrible.
As Americans wait for Congress to act, analysts say it's best to take steps to prepare for retirement by investing and saving wherever possible, so you're less dependent on the government. George Thomas, CBN News.
Thank you, George. Well, as expected, TikTok, the popular social media app, is suing the federal government. TikTok and its Chinese parent company, ByteDance, are suing over a recent law that requires it to be sold to another company or face a ban in the United States. Critics believe a Chinese-owned TikTok is a national security threat because of its ability to influence users and its access to the data of more than 170 million Americans. The suit argues the law is unconstitutional and there is no evidence that the company is a threat. Well, a growing concern this election season is how artificial intelligence might be used to spread disinformation. The issue has lawmakers looking for ways to protect Americans and the election process. CBN national security correspondent Caitlin Burke has more.
From forged photos and doctored videos to lifelike robocalls, AI technology carries the power to deceive, manipulate, and disrupt. No longer considered science fiction, lawmakers worry this present reality poses a serious threat to our very democracy. And we're already seeing it play out.
Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again.
Just days before New Hampshire's January primary, nearly 20,000 voters received this call using an AI-generated voice of President Biden, attempting to discourage them from showing up at the polls. Officials detected the deepfake and alerted the public. Experts warn, however, these deceptions will only get more sophisticated and available.
Imagine a world where that was a one-to-one attack, where instead of it being pre-recorded, it was actually live. And instead of being from one to many, it was one-to-one, where it's coming from your husband, your wife, your boss, saying, hey, Ben, we need you in the office at 6 a.m. I know it's a voting day. Or to an election official, hey, we're moving your precinct. We need you to be across town 3 hours away.
Ben Coleman, CEO of the deepfake detection platform called Reality Defender, says Congress must act now to protect the American public.
AI developments move fast. Legislation must move faster. Forecasting and potentially anticipating the rapid improvements in the quality and application of deepfakes.
Since last January, 41 states have introduced legislation banning election-related deepfakes, while 8 already have laws on the books. No action yet on the federal level, despite bipartisan support.
Congress has the power, indeed the obligation, to stop this AI nightmare. There are common sense, bipartisan bills ready to go. Right now, we can hold social media companies and big tech accountable for election deepfakes and other AI-driven harms. If we leave them unchecked, deepfakes and political deceptions will sow the seeds of our destruction as a democracy.
Both parties, the leadership needs to support an effort to get a vote. And I say an effort to get, really, they just need to schedule a vote. Let's put these bills on the floor and let's vote.
A number of companies already have technology to protect against deepfake content. Industry leaders maintain, however, that action from Congress, generative AI, social media platforms, and even the media will be needed to truly protect Americans. Caitlin Burke, CBN News, Washington.
Thank you, Caitlin. Gordon, back to you.
Well, we need to enact what's called Blade Runner laws. And what that is if it's an AI talking to you or an AI video or an AI picture, it has to be disclosed that it was generated by artificial intelligence. In that disclosure, then the viewer has all the information they need to either accept or reject the information. In a political year, when you can spoof your candidate, this is an absolute must, and please encourage every member of Congress to come together on this. We need it, and we need it now. And unless you think this is some far-off thing, that this can't happen in America, that people are going to play by the rules, there's a case right now where a high school principal was forced to be suspended because a disgruntled coach who had been discharged, terminated, had created an AI version of the principal, and that voice was used to say racist things. And so the principal then had to defend himself, had to prove that the recording was not him, was AI generated. And you look at it and go, how in the world can this ever happen? If there were strong penalties for doing this, that's one way, but it's got to also be enforceable, and the laws have to be quite clear. If you're generating anything with AI, spoofing somebody else, that it has to be clearly disclosed that you're doing so.